So welcome to my first thoughts on NieR Replicant, a game that originally came out in 2010. It wasn't a huge, big blockbuster success like they were hoping. It became a bit of a cult classic. And this is a revised version of that original game. It's not a remaster, and I have to say that. That's very important to know going in. So my history with NieR was in 2010 originally, and I watched my friend Pete Dorr stream the game every single night, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool action RPG. The graphics were a little bland at the time. They weren't really detailed and all that, but I enjoyed it enough that I did finally buy my own copy of the game and play quite a bit into it. But it's a bit of a cult classic. It's become that over time. And then NieR Automata came out and took the world by storm. Everybody was loving that game. And then they were like, what? There's a game before that? How are the games related? They're loosely related. There's some threads there for sure. And I want to say to begin with, this is a no spoiler, first thoughts kind of review on the game. I don't want to ruin the storyline, especially because I think that's one of the game's strongest attributes. And so I'm going to get into all the fun and history with this game from the past to now. Now in 2010, when the game originally came out in Japan, they got NieR Replicant. And the difference was, compared to the version that we got, is they had a younger protagonist and his sister, and it had a bit of a different take on the overall story. But when they brought it out over here, they gave us an older protagonist, and it was kind of, I think it was called NieR Gestalt. And that had, as I say, an older protagonist, and I guess they thought that would appeal more to an American audience. So that came out, and that's the version that we got. So we never got the Japanese-only Replicant until now. So to begin with, you can pick your language, Japanese or English, or your difficulty. I started to play on easy, and it was very, very easy, a little too easy. And also, you gotta be careful if you do pick easy mode that you don't hit auto battle. So, you know, the game will start fighting for you on its own, and that's not what you wanna do. So make sure you pause that or take it off. Now, I wanna start with the graphics to begin with, because when I played the original game, I was like, the gameplay was really good, but the world setting was kind of blah. That's how I felt about it, but I did love the imagination that was there. And right now, I will even show comparison of the original game that I played on the 360 to the updated version. Now, I have to say it's an update. It's a revised graphics. It's not a remaster. They've gone on record as saying it is not a remaster. And so, how are the graphics? They're way better than the original game. They are way better than the original game, but they're not next generation graphics if you're expecting that as well. So they kind of fall somewhere between the original NieR and games that came out in like 2018. They're kind of in that zone. What I will say is, I think a lot of the graphics, especially a lot of the town stages and things that you discover later in the game, are gorgeous. I think they're really, really beautiful. But there's times when there's close-ups of characters and there's a lot of shimmering on them. There's a lot of shimmering on some of the graphics in general. And some of the graphics are, man, it's like they turn the white balance up, and it's sometimes very, very bright, and like the contrast is way too high. That can be a little bit shocking at times, but honestly, it's the way they handle the 3D world that is so amazing. Like, what I really enjoy is when you're running around this 3D world exploring, and then all of a sudden you go into a shop or your home and it goes into a 2D level. That is something that I've always really enjoyed, and I think it looks really gorgeous here. It kind of gives a kind of a storybook feel. But I don't think it's just about the graphics. I think it's about the way the world is designed and some of the levels are designed. As I say, going from 3D into 2D, they do a really great job of implementing that. And that's part of the art style and part of the aesthetic look of this game that I think they get really, really right. Like, there's this one part where you go to this lighthouse, and I'll just let this play because I think it's so gorgeous. I feel that really captures a lot of what they're trying to do in NieR Replicant, and I think they've done a really good job. Yes, these are not next generation graphics, nor did they ever promise that they would be, so know what you're getting jumping in. Now, the story is about a boy and his sister is very, very sick, and he's trying to find a cure for her while battling the Shades. They're kind of a mysterious enemy. And along the way, he finds a mysterious book that helps him fight the enemies and understand the world in which he's living in. And that's all I want to say for the story. That's all I'm saying. Because if anybody does a review and reveals any more than that, that's killing it, man. You can't do that. Go into the story not knowing what's going to happen. That is part of the appeal of NieR, is the storyline. And let me say this much. It's very powerful. It's one of the things that still resonates with me 11 years later from even watching my friend Pete Dorr play it. In his streams when I watched him, I was like, oh my God, what they're doing here is remarkable. So it's a very, very different style of game. So for gameplay, yes, you're running around this 3D world and you're doing a lot of quests, a lot of fetch quests. I want to say that as well. But the great thing is you have speed running, so you can blast through the game and do all the different quests you need to do. That helps out quite a lot. You're also running into Shades. These are enemies that are on the battlefield. You'll fight them. You can defend yourself. You have a sword. You have spells. You have items. You have a book, which will also gain magic abilities where you can unleash attacks on your enemies. That's a lot of fun. And the one thing I do want to say about combat, the flow is fantastic. I mean, it just feels so natural to get into combat, to dodge around because you can roll out of the way, and it feels really, really good and very, very tight. I really like the gameplay here. I think that's one of the elements in this game that shines a lot. And they also change things up on you quite a bit, so you'll be running around the 3D world, and all of a sudden, the camera will change and you'll be looking overhead on your character going through a dungeon, and you'll be fighting monsters that way. Almost like a top-down RPG that way. And it's interesting that they changed that up quite a lot. And then you take on the bosses in this game. And the one thing I'll say about the bosses is their designs are really interesting. I really like a lot of the fun they've had playing with the design work of these different boss encounters, and it sometimes feels like you're in a gigantic shooter style game that all of a sudden all these shooting balls will come towards you and you're dodging out of the way, and then you go in to obviously attack the enemy to hit his weak point for damage, and once you uncover what that is, all of a sudden you have a timer to strike it again to do extra damage to take that boss down even harder. And the boss battles are very, very fulfilling, and they're a lot of fun, and it's just fun dodging all those bullets. And there's other styles of gameplay here as well. There's a lot of puzzle solving in the game. So you'll just kind of run into a home, go into the back of this home, and have to move all these blocks out of the way to uncover something. But some of the stranger things in the game that kind of made me go, what? Why not? This is in a time before a lot of open world style of games like Breath of the Wild that we have now, we take for granted. You cannot jump in the water or you will die in this game. Which doesn't make sense to me because you can jump off gigantic cliffs and land, you're totally okay. But my God, you jump in water, instant death. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's so intense. I mean, why can't my character swim? One of my guilty pleasures in this game, and I found it in the original NieR as well, is killing rams or sheep within the game. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. It is, because I love sneaking up on them and getting my sword and I'll just slash them and his blood explodes. And then all of a sudden you're running through the blood and then you're walking away and you have footprints of blood, following you. It's terrible, but super entertaining. Now this game comes together and is packaged very beautifully with one thing, and that is the music. The music was so good in the original, and they've re-recorded it here for this new version, and it's stunning. The choir music, the orchestration, it really comes to life and breathes life into this world and makes it its own unique thing. And you're running around and you're listening to the music, and it's haunting, a lot of it, and it makes you feel that yes, you are far off into the future, this an unknown, weird, strange world, and it really feels like something that you can relate to and something that's a little bit further away from you as well. So who is this game for? Who is this game for? I think it's for fans of the original NieR, and there are some massive cult fans out there that love the original, that of course are going to buy this new, retake on the original game. I think it's a fascinating way to play it. It's a really great way to revisit it from back in 2010. And it's also great if you like NieR Automata and you're curious about, hey, wait, where did this all kind of start from? And how do these games relate? You're going to have a lot of fun piecing those elements together, and you will see some elements for sure. I think it's a fascinating thing. Do I think it's as good as NieR Automata? I think it's its own unique thing. I think both games are kind of their own unique thing. They don't need to go off each other to be good on their own. I think they're both great games on their own. I liked NieR Automata a little bit more. I thought that the gameplay there was absolutely crazy and robust, and the graphics and all that. But there's this nostalgia in me for the original NieR, the cult classic that it is and was, and the game that kind of never got the attention it deserved. And I'm hoping now that the game will get the attention that it deserved nearly 11 years ago. And I think it's a fascinating game. There's a lot of interesting things, towns to visit, locations to visit. You really feel that you're in a very lived-in world. There's DLC coming out in the future. I think that will really enhance the game as well. I do believe it's free DLC. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm really enjoying my time with NieR, and I can't wait to play more of it over the weekend and finish the game, because I know the game is not that super long, about 20-ish plus hours, but I'm really enjoying the time that I'm having here. Are you guys interested in getting the game? Is it a game that's on your radar? Let me know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.